Due to COVID-19, this meeting will be conducted as a Zoom meeting pursuant to the provisions of Assembly Bill 361, which suspends certain requirements of the Brown Act. This meeting is being live streamed on the CCTA website. The chair will call upon members, staff, and other speakers by name. Please speak clearly and state your name before giving comments or remarks. Persons participating via Zoom with their cameras enabled are reminded that their activities are visible to viewers. Members participating by Zoom wishing to speak should physically raise their hand and unmute their mic when called upon. Members should mute their mics when done speaking. Citizens participating by Zoom wishing to speak should use the Raise Hand feature or dial *9 if participating via phone, and the chair or staff will call upon them at the appropriate time. Citizens will have 3 minutes to speak. After 3 minutes, staff will lower their hand and mute their mic. Participants via phone will be called upon by the last 4 digits of their phone number. It is requested that public speakers state their names and organization, but providing such information is voluntary. Written public comments received in accordance with the teleconferencing special notice for public comment guidelines are printed on the meeting agenda. If authors of the written correspondence would like to speak, they should raise their hand and the chair will call upon them at the appropriate time. All written correspondence received after that and during the meeting will be entered into the record. A roll call vote will be taken for all action items. Thank you for participating in a meeting of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority.
That's great. Thanks. Emily, can you please conduct a roll call vote?
Member Bankert,
Present.
Member Esquivel,
Present.
Member Hammond,
Present.
Member Moriarty,
I'm here.
Member Saunders, Member
Here.
Member Wayne,
Present.
Vice Chair Carr,
Eating on mute and here.
thank you, Chair Ash,
Here.
and we do have a quorum with members Bristow, Chahal, and Miller absent.
Okay, I appreciate that. Do we have any members of the public here or any written correspondence sent in, Emily?
We have not received any public comments, and I do not see any members of the public in attendance.
Okay, I am going to skip ahead. So the next items on the agenda are the consent calendar, which includes the summary of actions from the July 26th meeting and acknowledgement of the member attendance log. Are there any changes or comments from the committee?
None for me.
Have we received any written public comment?
We have not received any written public comments.
Okay, and since there's no members of the public here, do we have any motions?
Member Esquivel makes a motion to adopt the CCTA agenda. No, meeting minutes from the meeting minutes
Meeting minutes and attendance log.
in attendance log. Thank you.
Second.
Judd, thank you. Appreciate that. All right, let's do a roll call vote.
Member Banker,
Yes.
Member Esquivel,
Yes.
Member Hammond,
Aye.
Member Moriarty,
Approved.
Member Saunders,
Yes.
Member Wayne,
Yes.
Vice Chair Carr,
Aye.
Chair Ash.
I
The motion passes unanimously with members Bristow, Chahal, and Miller absent.
just have a clarification there. Since it's consent calendar, why do we do roll call versus just an anonymous unanimous vote?
It gives, members the opportunity to vote other than yes if they would like.
Okay. All right, we now move to the regular agenda items. We have 3 items on today's agenda. The first is informational item that will be introduced by Matt Kelly and presented by 511 Contra Costa, where I see Kirsten Rinker is here today. So Matt.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Ash. Actually, this item was specifically requested by a member whose last meeting was last month. Member Claire from City of Concord. So I wish she could have been here tonight. We might have to send her a copy of the presentation, but I think everyone will find it of interest. And we do have 511 Contra Costa come in I think the last time they were in was 2018. So every so often to give an update on what kinds of activities they're working on. And what they do is they're like an arm of CCTA. They are our, travel demand management arm for the county. And Kirsten will talk about, how they administer that countywide and some of the kind of really, in my mind, and some really innovative programs that they are administering for the county. This is something that is required under Measure J, that each city has a TDM program. And so, many of the cities work very closely with 511 Contra Costa, as well as groups like business parks like Bishop Ranch or Contra Costa Center, where our offices are located. Those groups all coordinate with 511 in order to administer these programs. So it's really cool what they're doing. So I'm just going to stop talking, and I'm going to let Kirsten Riker, who is the 511 program manager, talk to you about what she and her cohorts do. Kirsten?
Okay, thanks, Matt. I'm sharing my screen now, so if that's not working, let me know, but I'll just get started here. My name is Kirsten Riker, and I'm one of the program managers for 511 Contra Costa, and I've been working on this program since 2012, so I've been here quite a while now. 511 Contra Costa is a countywide program focused on reducing traffic and improving air quality by promoting those alternatives to driving alone. We promote transit, ride sharing, biking, walking, and working from home. We offer a variety of free programs and services for employers, the workforce, youth and schools, and residents of all ages. We're also a partner member of the Green Business Program of Contra Costa. Just to see how we're organized, this is the only part that's a little bit messy, but it works. 511 Contra Costa is implemented cooperatively by staff in 3 separate sub-regional offices serving all 4 of our RTPCs. Contra Costa Transportation Authority provides the oversight for the sub-regional office that I manage, and my team is staffed by Advanced Mobility Group, a consulting firm, and our program primarily serves the Transpac and Transplan regions. The Southwest region is managed by Darlene Amaral, my counterpart, who receives program oversight by SWAT, and Corey Riley is my counterpart in West Contra Costa with oversight from WCTAC. All of our programs are funded by Contra Costa Transportation Authority with a combination of the Measure J funds earmarked for commute alternatives and the Air District's Transportation Fund for Clean Air. So while the subregions have separate management, I'd like to reiterate that all of the programs I'm talking about tonight are offered countywide through collaborative work by staff at all 3 offices. So I always like to clarify that we're often confused with 511.org, which is the regional program that serves all 9 counties in the Bay Area and is run by MTC. So 511.org provides those real-time traffic updates and offers carpool ride matching for the entire Bay Area. In contrast, we are the local program serving people who live or work here in Contra Costa County. Our services include commute planning and information. We offer a guaranteed ride home program, We offer free incentives for green commuting. We have youth programs and a couple of just for fun programs designed to create active transportation habits for local trips. And I'll go over each of these on the next few slides. So our main purpose is the marketing of green transportation. So I'll start by talking about our outreach and communications. We have a mobile-friendly website that gets over 12,000 page views every month. Our social media channels have over 6,000 followers, and our posts generated over 240,000 impressions last year alone. We produce a short monthly newsletter with information about commute options, current programs, and seasonal promotions. Our subscription numbers have been steadily growing for the last several years, and we're now over 25,000 readers. We have a great open rate of about 40%. So if you're not already subscribed, I hope you will sign up tonight. Our programs focus on climate change actions that everyone can take, and our resources are generally inclusive of a financial benefit or a recreational aspect that make them attractive. One of the most basic services we offer is our personalized commute planning. This can be especially helpful for new residents, for people starting new jobs, or for anyone who is curious how you can commute to, from, or through Contra Costa without a car. Our commute coach can help you understand which door-to-door commute options exist. We include time estimates, cost comparisons, and can even help you calculate your commute carbon footprint. Plus, we'll get you registered for whichever incentives match your mode choice. This is a free service that we can provide via email, phone, or text. Our employer programs have us visiting work sites, as Matt mentioned, hosting transportation events, or providing custom digital outreach materials for employers to send directly via company email. We offer custom employee commute surveys and can help follow up with suggestions. During COVID, we developed a work from home toolkit to help employers develop or create official policies that lead to fewer workday and commute hour vehicle trips. Every May, we promote National Bike Month and Bike to Work Day, which is a fun Bay Area-wide event that rewards regular bike commuters and encourages first-timers to try biking to work. This year, we sponsored more than 40 Energizer stations throughout the county. People often tell us that they don't want to carpool or bike or use public transportation because they're worried about not being able to get home during an emergency. So our Guaranteed Ride Home program offers no-cost commuter insurance by reimbursing people with up to 6 Uber or Lyft rides home per year. So for example, if you carpooled to work and you get a midday call from your kid's school saying, you got to get here, your kid's sick, get them out of here. Or maybe you bike to work and you got a flat tire on the way in, you can simply jump into a Lyft, get home immediately, and then we'll reimburse you for that ride home. So again, this program is completely free and available to any adult who works or attends college full-time in Contra Costa County. In addition to the Guaranteed Ride Home, we also provide general cash incentive for employees to commit to using transit, carpooling, biking, walking, or even working from home at least once a week. The reward for this incentive is a choice of $25 gift card, or you can even choose to have 25 trees planted in your name by the nonprofit called One Tree Planted. We also offer popular mode-specific incentives. So for example, if you're new to transit and don't yet have a Clipper card, our Try Transit incentive gives you a free Clipper card preloaded with $25. We offer a variety of bus pass incentives, including Take 10 free rides, BOGO monthly passes, and various seasonal promotions. Our Secure Your Cycle program offers a free $20 Bike Link card that lets you use those great electronic e-lockers located at BART stations and other places around the Bay Area. And if you join or start a van pool, we'll offer cash subsidies to help defray those costs. As you know, e-bikes are getting more and more popular, and we were the first program in the Bay Area to offer cash rebates for new e-bikes. Our standard rebate is $150 and available to any adult resident of the county. If you have a qualified low income, your rebate goes up to either $300 or $500, depending on your home city. The 500 rebates are reserved for our low-income residents of our highest equity priority communities. This program has been very popular and we receive excellent feedback from participants. We've issued over 1,200 rebates and we're collecting great data from our follow-up surveys. For county residents who can't or won't use transit, e-biking has been an excellent replacement option for many of our local short trips. We also offer several youth programs that aim to reduce school and after-school trips. Our Past a Class program provides up to 2 months of free bus rides on County Connection, Tri-Delta Transit, WestCat, and AC Transit at the beginning of every school year. We supply thousands of passes countywide every year. Our Summer Youth Pass is a half-price youth pass that lets kids take unlimited bus rides all summer, June through August, for only $30. And without this program, the cost of that pass would be $60. So it's a pretty good deal. School Pool is our carpool promotion that runs at the beginning of the school year to encourage families to create carpool groups that last the whole school year. Our Street Smarts Diablo program has been delivering free bike, pedestrian, and traffic safety education and encouragement programs at no cost to schools in Central and Eastern Contra Costa since 2012. Since late last year, we expanded this program into La Miranda. And with CCTA's recent OBAG 3 grant, we're going to have continued funding to provide safety education, not only in the Transpac, Transplant, and La Miranda regions, but throughout the county. The San Ramon Valley Street Smarts program and the County Public Health will be partner implementers so that all Contra Costa students will be receiving safe routes education and encouragement programs. As a potential model, the Street Smarts Diablo program, which is something I run, there I am in the slide. We provide safety assemblies, walk and roll to school events, and a free helmet program. In fact, we've fitted over 6,200 helmets since 2012 for kids in need. This program also offers a variety of safety materials for community outreach, including digital graphics, seasonal safety reminders, yard signs, parking lot banners for schools and cities to use. Our online resources include helmet information, a community safety pledge, carpooling tips, at-home activities, fun safety videos, and more. Street Smarts has been a very active program. We went to 55 schools last school year, and already we have 42 schools on our fall calendar. So this year is setting up to be our busiest year yet. We enjoy strong support and partnership with schools, local traffic enforcement teams, and cities. And working on this part of my job is probably my favorite thing. Next, I'll describe what we call our unique Just for Fun programs. We've created a couple of game-like programs, which we say are just for fun, but in reality are sneaky and extremely effective ways to get people using and enjoying active transportation for lots of their local trips. And B, they get people to trust and follow the 511 Contra Costa brand so that they're more receptive when we talk about important, but less fun things like riding BART or taking the bus. So both the Summer Bike Challenge and Winter Walk Challenge are popular 12-week programs designed to motivate and condition people to choose these active trips. We use proven methods of behavior change, including gamification, positive weekly reinforcement, public celebration of accomplishments. The Summer Bike Challenge just wrapped up, and it's one of our most popular and well-loved programs. The tagline for this program is called Explore Your Town from the Seat of a Bike. And all 19 cities in Contra Costa get their own unique game board. As an example on the slide here, you can see the city of Pleasant Hill. Every year we feature different local destinations unique to each city for people to bike to, such as parks, public buildings, downtowns, schools, farmers markets, and other points of interest. We also host 3 in-person free stuff events in each of these cities. As an example, you can see here the bikes taking up parking spaces at one of our super popular events at Coco Swirl in downtown Pleasant Hill, which really shows what we're trying to do here. The most exciting part of this program, for us anyway, is that 95% of the participants opt in to receive a weekly email from us every Monday morning with a bonus bike ride challenge that sends them on extra rides to capture the challenge of the week with a bike selfie. This element was added during COVID when we couldn't do our in-person events, and it proved to be so popular that we've just added it permanently. And in fact, it led us to create the sister program, the Winter Walk Challenge. This element of the program is not only fun for participants, but it lets us talk to our customers every single week. It gives us a chance to sneak in reminders that reinforce the benefits of using green travel modes again and again and again. It's a fun, popular, and community building program. We had over 3,200 people of all ages participating this summer and received hundreds of photos every week. This slide here shows an abbreviated glimpse of the week 3 photo gallery when the theme was over, under, or through, and people had to bike to a bike ped only overpass, underpass, or tunnel. So people have a lot of fun. The Winter Walk Challenge is a 3-year-old program we started during COVID, and it continues to grow in popularity year after year. It doesn't have a game board, but like the Summer Bike Challenge, we send a Monday email for 3 months with a new walk theme of the week. And despite the torrential rains we had last year, we had over 2,700 people participating and received over 4,000 photos. So this collage shows just a glimpse of the entries that people sent in to capture our 12 weekly themes. So while 511 Contra Costa isn't doing the hard work of building the roads or driving buses, our programs have helped us build relationships and trust with the public. As a result, people are willing to listen and possibly consider saying yes to trying alternative modes that can be admittedly less convenient than driving. Our newsletter subscriptions and social media base are growing steadily because our programs are fun and our customer service is excellent. I can brag about how great our programs are, but I prefer to simply show you a few of the many, many great comments that we receive. And I'm not going to read them all out loud, but for anyone here who works in the public sector, you might want to check out the one in green, which will make you feel warm and fuzzy, that says, I'm so happy that my tax is being used for the right thing. So we feel like we're on the right track. Anyway, as I wrap up my presentation, I'll again encourage you, if you're not already signed up for our newsletter, to do so and share it and the resources we have with the people in your communities. And that is going to be it for me. I'm happy to take questions, or if Matt wanted to jump in with anything else, I will stop sharing.
Thanks, Kirsten. And I'll just note there were a few extra slides in your packet. Those were related to an item that this was presented with at our board meeting a month or two ago, related to approving funds that are part of to administer the program in different parts of the county. So yeah, any questions for Kirsten?
I'll give everybody a minute to take off of mute. Michael, you raise your hand first, and then we'll go to Chris. Looks like Keith might be raising his hand. Michael first.
Let me come off mute. That will help. First of all, Kristen, I really like the focus on the kids. Yeah, I might be a lost cause. I usually work from home when I work, and as you get older, biking becomes perhaps less attractive, although not unattractive. But I think the focus on the kids and building those habits early is wonderful. And if it's the natural thing to do, I think that will carry with them through their life. Just a couple of things that struck me. You mentioned the emergency ride home, which I thought was really cool. How does that work if I live in Contra Costa but work in the city, or I live in Contra Costa but I am working for one of the tech firms out of Santa Clara County? How does that work? Is there something across the 9 counties that provides cover for that, or no?
There is a guaranteed ride home program in each of the counties. And generally the county that pays for the ride is the one where you're working. So if you worked in Silicon Valley, you could apply for the guaranteed ride home from that county, or you can apply from Contra Costa and we'll pretty much fulfill it for you too.
So one way or another, they'll get the person home, even if
Yeah.
the county line you cross.
We've been known to cover a rental car ride home. So, it's a pretty good resource.
Yeah, no, that's, I think, for particularly people with looking after elders or with young children, that's
Right.
important. The other one that struck me, and then I'll open the space for others, you mentioned so many programs, and I just am curious, how do you evaluate the effectiveness of those programs? If there's one that's just hugely effective, throw more of your resources at it, and if there's one that's not working, then kick it to the curb. How do you metric the efficiency of all these different initiatives that you have?
Well, we do a lot of follow-up surveys. All of our programs, we do a lot of follow-up surveys, and we get a lot of, I'm telling you, we do pretty good customer service. People, we reel them in with the fun stuff, and then they're happy to provide these surveys. So we are monitoring, how effective they are. And our data is showing that they are fairly effective. I think our biggest problem is that not as many people know about it. If they knew about it, that's what we often hear is like, oh, I wish I had known about this a long time ago. So that seems to be our biggest problem. Like guaranteed ride home, people love that. And every time I talk about it, people are like, oh, I didn't know that was available. So that's our biggest barrier at this point, is just getting more people to know about it.
I'm not surprised. I think you said it's been 5 years since you've been to this group. I suspect the half-life of a member's 2 to 3 years. And so you showing up and just reminding us of all of this a little bit more often than every 5 years is probably worthwhile, because I was blind to a lot of what you have on offer, actually.
We do a lot of cross-marketing. Well, we attempt to do a lot of cross-marketing with the cities that we serve. We have 19 cities, and we send information out to each of the city PIOs routinely, hoping that they have a bigger outreach than we do, and hoping that they'll help promote these things. So if you have any pull with your city, send them our way.
Great, thanks. And yeah, I would suggest those city newsletters, following up with the city communications directors along those lines. Chris?
Yeah, so Michael kind of asked, I think the same question I wanted, and how you measure, the results. And while I certainly think surveys gives you good feedback, one thing to consider, and I always think it's helpful to present some of this stuff at meetings like this, is, what's kind of the cost benefit return or whatever. There must be some programs that you can measure a little more scientifically than others. And I think that would be helpful feedback, just for the group as a whole. And so that's just a general comment. The other thing, I am relatively new to this group, and so I'd heard of a few of the things you talked about. So what are the ways that you market it? Because I do think there's, particularly for kids, getting more kids riding to school, walking to school, instead of clouding up the streets at 8 o'clock in the morning every day. How do you market it so that it gets, wider, knowledge about it?
Well, in my Street Smarts Diablo program, I work directly with school principals. As I mentioned, the program that I'm running has been serving Central and East Contra Costa, which has 78 elementary schools. Anyway, I'm serving about 150 schools, and I work directly with school principals. So I go with the principal. We get in there and we schedule our safety assemblies. We provide outreach materials for the schools to put in their school newsletters, web pages, social media, or however they communicate with their school community. So school-wise, that's what we do. Same with the family and youth-focused programs such as School Pool and Past a Class, and our summer biking program and things like that. And in terms of measuring the effectiveness of the program, I'll go back to your question, as well as Michael asking about that. The problem with TDM, transportation demand management, has always been verifying trips. So people tell us, yeah, I'm riding a bus, and then you see an empty bus go by and you're like, well, Are you? But the problem is there is no real way to track trips. There's a couple of apps that, if you choose to download this app and allow it to track you, not too many people are super keen on that. The way Clipper works, it's not account based, so we can't preload funds directly onto your Clipper card, knowing that you can only use it to take public transportation. When BART 2.0 rolls out, we'll be able to load incentives directly onto people's Clipper. But until then, yeah, you're right. A lot of these trips are not verified. So we do go on, self-reporting. The e-bike rebate program, on the other hand, our survey is quite extensive, asking for mileage, odometer information, and we get incredible testimonials. So we know people are riding their e-bikes. And the summer bike challenge and the winter walk challenge, people are sending in photos of their, in their helmet out at, the grocery store, or whatever the task is. So, we're trying our best, but some of these other bigger and more important transit, BART, it's hard to get actual user data for that. So
I appreciate that. One last question, maybe you or Matt can answer. I mean, what's the total budget for 511 Contra Costa, just roughly? I mean, so I understand magnitude.
Oh, I can pull that right up. As I said, each of our we have 3 offices working on this program, and we each have a separate budgets. My office, which is funding for TransPac and TransPlan, we have about $1.5 million a year.
Okay.
3
Big number.
staff and serving a lot of schools.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Did I see someone else? Keith, did you have your hand up originally?
I just wanted to say it sounds like a wonderful program. That's the only comment I have. Thanks.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks. All right. I don't know if I see anybody else with questions. I wanted to ask about that emergency trip home. Does it include drunk drivers? Is that something you do? Is there another program to communicate to bars on that?
Yeah, unfortunately, it does not include drunk driving emergency rides. That definitely is an emergency, and I wish it would, but this program is funded by the Transportation Fund for Clean Air from the Air District. And so there's reporting on that in terms of, trips reduced, commute trips reduced. So that's an ineligible trip type, unfortunately. And I don't know of any other program where you can get a free ride.
So Matt, maybe a future topic could be learning about, I'm going to say this wrong, drunk driving, but not learning how to drunk drive, but what is being done in our county. What are the numbers of fatalities or accidents, and what's being done might be interesting to this group to hear. You talked a lot about call volume and stuff. How has that changed with Google Maps and Waze and Apple Maps telling us the traffic? And
yeah, well, as I say, that's actually, the real-time traffic updates, that's 511.org, which is, the 9-county Bay Area NTC program. So, as you know, with common sense, I think it's fairly obsolete at this point with Google and Apple Maps. So, yeah, but they do the regional ride matching service. They have a merge carpool program that, would help you find somebody in Martinez who's going to stop in Pleasant Hill and head out to San Francisco, perhaps.
Okay. But you guys still had call volume for the trip planning and other stuff. Has that gone down a lot with?
Oh, no, I hate to interrupt you again, but trip planning, that's also 511.org.
Who's calling you? You had the
Yeah, no, those freeway signs where you see call 511.
No. On your slides, you had a guy with the headphone, and you were talking about trip planning and using a mix of public transit.
Okay. Yes. Okay. I'm sorry. I misunderstood you. Yes, that's our commute coach. And
okay, a commute coach. Got it.
Yeah. So, for example, our newsletter will go out. It'll hit 25,000 and growing customers. And somebody might be like, well, maybe I do want to try something new, and they'll say, I just don't even know where to start. And we'll get inquiries, and sometimes we can help them, and sometimes, the transit service or ride matching option just isn't there. But in terms of how many of those we get, not that many, probably. Oh gosh, I have a colleague who handles the commute coach. I don't know what she's up to recently, but probably 25 a month for commute
Okay.
coach. Yeah.
So those persons doing something else in terms of their
Oh,
time and
Yeah.
they
That's
get a
just
random call in here and there. Okay.
right. I mean, as you say,
Once or
with-
twice a day.
yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, with Google Trip Planning or any of these other trip planning apps that people are fairly comfortable with, it may be a less tech savvy person that calls in for one-on-one commute coaching.
All right. Awesome. Does anybody else, Bill, you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to add some information because the question came up around drunk driving, and just wanted to share for the public benefit that during most holidays, Mothers Against Drunk Driving partners with Uber and Lyft, and oftentimes will provide free rides during the holidays.
Awesome. Thanks, Bill. All right. I don't see any other questions. So thank you so much for joining us and sharing this. I know I learned something new, and it sounds like everybody else did. And I'm going to challenge all of us to participate in this winter step challenge and see if we can all get more steps than Matt. We're going to set the benchmark low, and you should have no excuse to beat it.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, so next on our, do we have any members from the public, Emily?
There are no members from the public.
Okay, great. The next item on the agenda will be also introduced by Matt Kelly and presented by the City of Clayton staff to review their calendar years 2020 and 2021 Growth Management Program Compliance Checklist. Matt?
Thanks, Chair Ash. We are getting down through that list of checklists. Tonight, we have the City of Clayton and the City of Lafayette. Clayton is up first, and we have representing the planning side or the community development side, we have Dana Ayers, and on the public works side, Jason Chen is joining Dana. So I'm just going to pass it on to Dana. She's done this before, and I'm going to let her introduce the city's calendar year 2021 GMP checklist. Dana?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Jason and I are going to tag team this a little bit. So I'll do the first few slides talking about land use and general plan related actions, zoning related actions, and then I'll hand it off to Jason to speak to the CIP and engineering related slides. So give me just a moment, I'll share my screen. Okay, so thank you for your attention this evening, and thank you for having us tonight. So just jumping right in, again, we'll start with some planning issues. The City of Clayton is fairly small, so it's probably one of the less active presentations you'll see among the groups you're going to review through this process. But nonetheless, in terms of long-range planning, we did have a couple long-range planning actions that the city did take over the last, initiate over the 2020-21 cycle. Like all other jurisdictions in Contra Costa County and most of Northern California, we did initiate our housing element amendment to the general plan. It was initiated during the 2020-2021 cycle, but was not completed until January of 2023 when the council adopted the housing element, and it is currently with HCD for HCD's review. Additionally, there were a few zoning amendments. There was an amendment to rezone property from R15 to a PD or planned development district for the Diablo Meadows residential development. And I'll get into a little more detail about what that was a little later. And then there was also a zoning map amendment to rezone property from R10 and PF, which is public facilities districts, to PD or planned development for the Oak Creek Canyon, also a residential development. And then kind of unrelated to land use, but also a zoning code amendment, there was an amendment to the code regarding medical and adult use cannabis, particularly related to allowing the outdoor growth of plants for personal use with no change to commercial regulations. Transitioning to the other side of planning, the current planning side, there were 3 entitlements for large residential projects issued during the 2020-2021 period. The first of these was the Olivia on Marsh Creek, which is an 81 unit, 3-building senior apartment development. Of these 81 units, 6 of them will be deed restricted as very low income units. The city also approved the Diablo Meadows residential development mentioned on the previous slide. This consisted of 18 single-family residences and 3 accessory dwelling units. And of these 18 units, 1 of the houses with its ADU was deed restricted. The primary residence was deed restricted as moderate income, and its internal ADU was deed restricted as a low income unit. Oak Creek Canyon is a 6-unit single-family development. It's approved toward the eastern edge of the city. It has 1 accessory dwelling unit. It actually falls below the criteria, the threshold for requiring inclusionary housing, but it does, as I mentioned, have an accessory dwelling unit and to offer some affordable housing option. In addition to the discretionary entitlements that the city granted, there were permits and entitlements issued for 7 privately owned accessory dwelling units. 3 of those were in 2020, 4 were in 2021. So we're seeing an upward trend in our construction of accessory dwelling units over the last few years and even into this current cycle. Of those projects that were entitled during the 2020 and 2021 cycle, the 4 of those accessory dwelling units were actually constructed and completed, or 2 of them per year. And then the Diablo Meadows development, that was the construction commenced in 2021, and all of the units were completed as of this year. And you notice there's probably a difference between the slide here and the number on the previous slide. One of the lots that was entitled for a single family home wasn't built at the request of the owner of that property. So we actually got 17 units, but we still did get 1 moderate and low income unit. And I'll pass off to Jason to talk about the capital improvements and engineering improvements for the reporting period.
All right. Thank you, Dana. Hi, everyone. My name is Jason Chen. I'm a consultant with Thies Engineering. As Dana mentioned, Clayton is a small agency and does not have any in-house engineering staff. So the engineering consultant provide the engineering needs for the city, and I'm designated as the city's deputy city engineer. And I'm here to highlight some of the CIP that has been completed during the reporting period. The first one is a street paving program. It's a paving project. There was a coordinated effort to combine the paving project of 3 jurisdictions into 1 large paving project. The reason for this is to allow small cities such as Clayton to enjoy the economy of scale of that of the larger agencies such as the county or CCTA enjoys. Unfortunately, after the bid was open, the lead agency decided not to continue with the combined project. But fortunately, the contractor was willing to honor the same unit price and agreed to sign 3 separate contracts. So in essence, we did, Clayton and all the agency did get to enjoy that economy of scale. Due to the time it took to sort everything out, only the ADA upgrade was completed during the reporting project, but since then the paving portion has been completed and it was completed last summer. Next is a Pine Hollow Road Complete Street Feasibility Study. The study was completed with coordination with City of Concord, our neighboring city. The total segment along the whole project is about 2.2 miles and about, 1/3 of a mile. It's in the Clayton section. When completed, this project will bring complete street type of improvement for walking, biking, along multiple schools within the segment. The majority of the outreach and public engagement occurred during the reporting period in 2021. With Plunker taking the lead, an application for active transportation program cycle 6 grant application was submitted. Unfortunately, this project was not selected because ATP grant, it's quite competitive. We'll continue to look for future opportunity to apply for funding. And the last item to highlight is that the school intersection safety improvement. The city completed a series of improvement at school intersection. These are not the major capital project, but they're valuable operation type of improvement that allow the city to implement improvement quickly and at a very low cost. So these are more of a quick build type of improvement. And all right, next slide, Dana, please. Looking forward, city has been working on some exciting project. The downtown pedestrian improvement plan will construct raised sidewalk in the town center area. It will have a raised and lighted crosswalk located at Oak Street and Center Street. And it will also have a table or a raised intersection at the intersection of Marsh Creek Road and Main Street. So all these are in the downtown area, town center area. The funding for this project include over $250,000 for Measure J TLC fund. The city appreciates CCTA's financial support on this. And next, I would like to discuss the city's annual effort to bring ADA facility to the latest standard and maintain the roadway pavement. Annually, the city puts aside funds to bring ADA facility to the latest standard. We have limited fund, we can't do it all, but we do dedicate some funds and put it aside for this purpose. The ADA project could be a standalone project or combined with a project. Again, it's the idea of trying to enjoy the economy of scale with a bigger project. As for the payment, the city's 2022 PCI is 79, so that's in the good category, on the top of the good category, very close to the very good category. The Measure J return to source money is one of the major funding for this payment maintenance program. For the coming summer, the city has planned a payment project that include federal fund, which is a little bit more complex to process, but we look forward to bid out the project in the spring and construction in the summer. This project will utilize $400,000 of Measure J Major Street program funds. The next project is a smart signal upgrade project. This project will bring smart technology to existing signal to improve efficiency and real-time responsiveness. We're doing this in collaboration. Actually, CCTA is taking the lead to do this countywide. So city engineering staff participate in the monthly CCTA countywide coordination meeting. And this is at the beginning of the stage, but as we continue to develop this, we will also bring all these information to our city council. And next page, please. The next page project I would like to talk about does not directly result in any physical improvement, but we're quite excited about it. We've been creating our GIS. Some of the larger agencies have it, but we're working on that now. Having a GIS will allow the city staff to use it for future project development, for capital project, for engineering analysis, for planning effort on the planning side that Dana leads. We already use the data that we gather in our engineering analysis for the traffic safety issue, which leads me to the last project I would like to talk about, the local road safety plan, or LRSP. More and more grants are requiring LRSP to be adopted as a condition to apply for these grants. The RSP create a framework to systematically identify and analyze safety problems and recommend safety improvements. The GIS data I just mentioned was helpful in the development of the RSP. A public outreach effort is planned at the city's Oktoberfest this weekend So if, for those of you who want to have some fun this weekend, please come to the city's Oktoberfest. And following that, we plan to introduce a ORSP conceptual framework to our city council next month in October. The ORSP will assist the city in selecting and developing future safety improvement project. And in addition, we'd like to thank CCTA staff for their assistance. CCTA is also assisting the city create another similar plan, which is the Safe Street and Road for All, or SS4A, Comprehensive Safety Action Plan, the CSAP. This action plan will allow the city to apply for a future SS4A grant. CCTA procured the transportation consultant that will work on both plans. And by having the same consultant working on both plans, it's beneficial because there are certain components are really, they're virtually the same. So we don't have the duplication of effort. And basically one consultant does the work once and can apply to both plans, and thus making it very cost efficient. To conclude, as you can see, the city staff has been working closely with CCTA on a variety of projects and endeavors. For a smaller city with limited resource, we really appreciate CCTA's financial support as well as CCTA staff's assistance. A great example is Matt, who I reach out to quite often. So thank you, Matt. And this concludes our presentation.
Great. Thank you. All right. Who is up with questions? Keith, is that you, or are you just fixing your camera? You could just be fixing his camera. He doesn't have anything. Anybody have any questions? Wow, there's always somebody with a question. All right, Michael.
Always need to remember to come off mute. I'll jump in. And I was looking for the details. Maybe let me start with the details. I was trying to wrap my head around some of the details around capital. I was seeing ambitions of like 1.3 million this year, and then funds of 400,000. And I was trying to reconcile all that. Is there surplus capital that's still hanging around that funds the difference? It looked like some of that gap was closed when you looked at it on a 2-year basis, but it just didn't quite connect with me. And I was wondering if there was an easy explanation to that one, either Dana or Jason, on behalf of the city, you could offer an explanation for.
Yes, there are some balances in the past that's been built up. As I indicated earlier, we have a project that was delayed earlier, so there was some balance that's been built over the years. And with a smaller budget, for a smaller city such as Clayton, that is really the strategy that we kind of have to rely on going forward as well. In the past, there's more funding available for payment maintenance grant, so that allow us to do more payment maintenance project maybe every year. But as some of these grants have shifted their focus, what we have proposed to the city council, which they adopted in the annual budget, is really to embark on a payment project every other year to allow us to build the fund to have a bigger project. And again, it's back to the idea of economy of scale. If we can build a bigger project, then the unit cost will be lower.
Now, I was really pleased to hear that you applied that principle. I was really sad to hear that the lead agency nixed it. I won't ask you to tell us who the lead agency was, because we're not here to shame people, but that was disappointing to hear, but good to hear the contractor honored it. Maybe as a last question, you've highlighted, and I'm aware Clayton's a small jurisdiction, the fundamental checklist is just as long for a town of 10,000 people as it is for Concord, which is a 250,000 people. How much effort does this whole process take relative to the capability and number of staff to do it? And is there anything that could be done that would, well, I guess one, do you get any value from it besides that you got to do it to get approved? Or is there something that could make this much easier for you? If you said, hey, if you just didn't have to do this, this would be a much easier exercise, because I'm interested in hearing how we can make this process more efficient for you.
You're talking about the GMP checklist itself?
Yeah, absolutely. It's it looks daunting enough if you're the one having to fill it out on behalf of this exercise. So is there something that can be done, notwithstanding anything out of Sacramento that thou shalt not do, but double negative intended? Is there anything that could make this an easier process for everyone?
I'm not quite sure. I mean, it is time. But a lot of programs that cities have to, a lot of programs that cities are involved in do require reporting. And I understand the importance of documenting for each of the cities and the county, each of the jurisdictions, Contra Costa, to document that we are in compliance with the program. So I recognize the importance of that to the process. I think it may be a challenge when there's a lot of turnover. I mean, with doing the checklist, I did the checklist last year or last cycle as well. And so I have a little bit of institutional knowledge that made completing the checklist a little easier. And I imagine that other jurisdictions where there's some continuity in staff, you develop a kind of a system to it. And as you know, a lot of these projects that I was talking about, I just know because I've been working with them for a couple of years. I'm not quite sure how to make it simpler. And if it's really on this group to decide how to make it simpler. Like I said, I think that a lot of the forces that make this process simpler or more complex are really forces within the agency itself. How much institutional knowledge do you have? What's your turnover? How familiar are these projects? Or do you have to do a bunch of research to figure out what someone did before you? But as I said, I do recognize it's important for us to document that we are in compliance with the rules of the checklist, because it's a lot of money. I mean, you want to make sure that we're following the rules.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Michael, anything else there? Or
no, I can lower my hand. No, thanks for that. That's a thoughtful response, and it's one where I think hey, we're an advisory committee, so I think if we hear, hey, there's things that could be done that could make this not lose the essential, but maybe get rid of pieces that aren't absolutely vital, we ought to be open to hearing that from folks. So thank you.
Thanks. And my question was I was looking at the map of Clayton. Do you guys actually have part of Ignacio/Kirker Pass where it changes right there? It looks like you might have like the sidewalk, but not part of the street. And then do you have any jurisdiction over like that traffic light? Or does that go to Concord? Or just curious on shared routes?
So for that segment, yes, we do not have jurisdiction on the road itself. I think the portion you're talking about, but the parcel adjacent to it is within the city of Clayton. And then in terms of that intersection, I believe it is, it's not controlled by Clayton. From that portion of the city limit, our first signal is Washington. So it's the one just a block east of it.
We talk a lot, and you were talking about the synchronization program. One of the questions I always ask people is, are they coordinating with the other cities on it? But Clayton might actually be the one city here that doesn't have a big shared route. Your people all come through it, but you guys actually don't have jurisdiction on the major artery there. You're relying on those other cities, which I think is just interesting by itself.
There are quite a few people who will come to Marsh Creek Road from the East County that will travel through the city.
Okay.
And then in terms of the collaboration, that's why CCT is the lead agency in this smart signal project, and we, they can't do all the signal all at once around the
Right,
county.
right.
They too much. So tentatively, they have selected the first 4 signal starting from where you were talking about. So starting
Okay.
from Washington to Mitchell Canyon, those are the first 4 signal that they're considering, and it will be coordinated. It is a coordinated effort, so it will be coordinated with the signal in Concord and Walnut Creek.
Okay. That's interesting. Okay, that was helpful to know. Anybody else, or? Usually we would ask the member from your city to do it, and you actually have one of the most reliable members from your city in Ed Miller, who is usually always here and always asks relevant questions, and he is not here tonight, of course, because you are presenting. So would anybody else like to make a motion? There's not even a neighbor because Concord's person is out and I'm the Walnut Creek representative. So anybody at all want to represent and make a motion here for Clayton?
Lacking another person to stand up right away, I'd like to move that we accept their report.
There you go. Thank you, Judd. Second?
I'll gladly second it, Jared. It's
All right.
Chris.
Thanks, Chris. Emily, you want to take a roll call vote, please?
Member Banker,
Yes.
Member Esquivel,
Yes.
Member Hammond,
Approve.
Member Moriarty, Member Saunders,
Approved.
Member Wayne,
Yes.
Vice Chair Carr,
Approve.
Chair Ash.
Approved.
The motion passes unanimously with members Bristow, Chihuly, and Miller absent.
Okay, and we could actually say good things about Representative Miller on this membership, although we will happily give him a hard time for not showing up when you were here. So thank you for his service, and thank you guys for being here. So I still don't see any public comment, so hopefully I haven't missed anything. Matt, do you want to take us into Lafayette?
Yes, thanks, Chair Ash, and thanks to Clayton staff. And as they pointed out, they are the smallest city by, in terms of population, kind of by far within the county. And so moving west into the La Miranda area, we've got City of Lafayette, and they are the 4th smallest city within the county. But I think you'll see by their presentation, just because of their location, where it is in the county and what's around, they have, much different issues than Clayton. So I think that's always the interesting thing about these checklists, is just seeing the differences in the different parts of the county. And then member Carr, to member Carr's question, when we do have staff carrying over from previous years, it really does help in the checklist preparation, because we recognize at CCTA that it is not easy for new staff to pick it up, especially if you don't have that history with the city and understanding how CCTA fits in the growth management program. It's a lot. And so saying that, I've got the City of Lafayette staff here, and this is their first time in front of you with the checklist. Patrick is actually very new to the city and wasn't here during most of the reporting period. So he's probably had to do some research to get up to speed tonight, but I know Greg has been around for a while and can help him out. So I've got Patrick representing the transportation side, and Greg representing the planning side from the City of Lafayette. And I'll turn it over to Patrick to go over the highlights of the city's checklist.
Great. Thanks, Matt, and to the CAC for taking the time tonight to review and discuss Lafayette's compliance with the Measure J Growth Management Program. I think Greg is going to share his screen. Okay. So as Matt mentioned, I'm the city's new transportation program manager. I've been here at the city for just over a year now. Happy to be here both at the city and with you tonight. As Matt mentioned, I'm joined here by Greg Wolf, who's the planning director here at the city. And he's going to kick things off tonight with a discussion about Lafayette's progress in meeting our land use and development goals.
Thank you, Patrick. Members of the committee and staff, good to see you. Thanks for having us tonight. I will talk about land use planning, housing over the reporting period. So on screen, you see our project entitlements in the years 2020 and 2021. 493 units and 103 units entitled respectively in each of those years. And then in terms of building permits issued during the reporting period and the breakout by economic segment or income level, you can see the table in the lower right. So these are two recent projects. The top one I'll talk about, the bottom left is completed and occupied. So we maintain a webpage, lovelafayette.org/major projects, which has all of our major projects and every project that I will talk about this evening. So if you are interested in more information, you're welcome to hit that or reach out to me. So in terms of entitled housing development projects during the reporting period, I believe we had 6. The first is the Terraces of Lafayette, which is a 315 unit apartment project in 14 buildings. The overall site is 22.27 acres. The project will have 20% below market rate. I'll use the abbreviation BMR throughout tonight's presentation. So it was approved. They are developing their construction drawings right now. They have in hand a grading permit. They've not yet broken ground, but plan to mobilize probably early next year after the rains let up. In terms of transportation improvements, we actually came to SWAT, LPMC, SWAT, and CCTA regarding the trap lane. So the intersection of Pleasant Hill Road and Deer Hill Stanley. Pleasant Hill Road is a route of regional significance, and there was a provision in the action plan to not add any lanes to that. The project proposed as a mitigation measure a trap lane. So as you approach southbound the intersection, the new lane will be created and head southbound to the point where it would enter Highway 24 westbound. The next project is the West End project. So you can see in the upper right, a shuttered convalescent facility, which would be demolished and replaced by a 4-story, 13-unit condominium project. All of the projects that the city has entitled during the reporting period and otherwise have a minimum of 15% affordable below market rate units as a function of the project. We have had inclusionary housing since 1994. In 2012, the state disbanded redevelopment. So there was a brief period where we did not have it, but quickly adopted a local ordinance reinstating the same requirements. And during that period, one of the projects, we were still able to get the below market rate units incorporated. So the project would have underground parking. It is the subject of a pending lawsuit filed by the neighbor and Save Lafayette. The city and the developer prevailed in the trial court, and it's on appeal right now. Madison Park is a project approved by the city. If you're familiar with downtown Lafayette, the Lafayette Library and Learning Center, if you cross Golden Gate Way to the south, this is the current 2-story, probably 1950s or 60s apartment complex, which has some nail and hair salons, etc. Big surface parking lot as well. That this is entitled for a 71-unit condo project, 9 below market rate units. It will be 4 stories and around 54 feet in height. It too would have underground parking and will have a small public plaza on the north side proximate to the intersection and the library, as well as do some Creekside Trail improvements on the south side. It abuts the creek. And once again, oops, I did not change the images. My apologies. On the north side of the library is a 166 unit condo project, which will replace the corporate terrace office park with a big sea of surface parking around it. So happy to forward to you the images of the project, but it's 166 units, 4 stories over podium parking. The below market rate component will be in a standalone building, housing 38 units for adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Their partner in the project is Sunflower Hill, which has done other projects in Contra Costa. And lastly, the project is going to demolish some medical office. And so as part of the project, they would build a new, they're entitled for about a 30,000 square foot medical office building on the south side as it fronts the boulevard. And so that would be the south face of the project, with the housing occupying the remainder of the site. Going smaller now, 950 Huff is the project name and address. It is a 4-story. You're seeing 3 at the front, but it bumps up to 4 behind, with 3 below market rate units. And it too abuts a creek going through downtown, so would provide for a trail and deck as part of a springing easement in the future. Samantha Townhomes, another infill. The last project at 950 Huff actually has a dated small commercial building on it. These 2 properties on screen now are vacant and immediately south of the freeway at the end of Stewart Street. So pretty straightforward, 12 new townhomes, including 2 below market rate. 3-story project stepping up the hillside, and they will be required to do frontage improvements, pedestrian sidewalk, etc. So those are the projects entitled during the reporting period. And now I'll talk briefly about housing projects that are currently under construction. The Brant, if you know where the city offices are, we don't have City Hall, but we rent office space by Diamond K, which sells dirt and rocks. We're down behind that at 3675 Mathieu Boulevard. Immediately opposite our site and Diamond K is the Brant, which is going to be 66 condominiums, about 5,000 square foot restaurant space at the corner, catty corner to Trader Joe's. And that is going to be built out to house a brew pub. And at the north side of the property, it abuts the East Bay Mud Aqueduct. So there's a significant right of way that goes through town, largely paralleling the freeway. And about a dozen years ago, I'll let Patrick talk about the East Bay Mud Pathway project, but this project is completing the first segment from Risa Road to Dolores Drive. So on screen in the upper right-hand corner, you could actually see Lennar's project that I just talked about, the Brant in the upper right corner, and the East Bay Mud Aqueduct along its northern boundary. To the northwest of that is another project currently under construction. It's 99 condominiums called Woodbury Highlands, and it too has 15 affordable BMR units. And they have already completed their aqueduct pathway improvements. So as it currently stands, you can go from the Lafayette Veterans Building at Risa Road and traverse eastbound. And the improvements currently end, although it's navigable, it's just not an improved garden and pathway beyond Woodbury Highlands, but Lennar will do its part, and then we will seek to do additional build out as projects and sites redevelopment redevelop moving forward. Transitioning to accessory dwelling units. This is a graph that is part of our 6th cycle housing element, showing the trending on accessory dwelling units. State law in recent years have made it much easier to build accessory dwelling units, and we've gone above and beyond state law in allowing up to 1,200 square foot ADUs. And the next slide will cover an incentive program we have in place. So you can see not only are the applications for ADUs increasing year over year, so are the permitting of those. So they initially get their application in and sign off as compliant, and then they prepare their construction drawings and sometimes don't move forward with it because of construction costs or other factors. But you can see the sort of lagging conversion rate on screen. So as I mentioned, we do have an incentive program currently. It's a pilot program for 4 years that the council endorsed and we put into place January of this year, which effectively reduces or waives half of the development impact fees that the city has on ADUs. So they are by state law charged as a function of the proportion between the size of the ADU and the main residence. And then we're also discounting that 50% with the hopes of incentivizing ADUs. We are currently undertaking a general plan update. The first element of that is the housing element. So our webpage dedicated to the general plan update is planlafayette.org. So you can follow along there, sign up for updates, and get information on any of the ongoings there. Our housing element update, we adopted our housing element in January, submitted by the January 31 deadline to the state. The state reviewed and concluded that revisions are necessary to bring it into full compliance with state law. And where our target date to resubmit is by the end of month. We had a council meeting last night where they gave direction on the kind of some remaining outstanding points on opportunity sites. And our RENA allocation issued by ABAG is 2,114 units. So that's more than 20% growth in the number of dwelling units over 8 years. So the growth in town will happen in some part throughout the community in the form of ADUs and just new single family residences. Largely, the growth will happen in the downtown existing multifamily and commercial zones. And so these are those areas plus the addition of areas 7 and 8. So these were when we launched the housing element update, and we're looking at areas where the community could accommodate growth, should accommodate growth. I think we identified 15 and it got winnowed down to these. Currently, we're not, the council is not intending to upzone any areas north of the freeway. So the areas south of the freeway would go from currently 35 dwelling units per acre to the numbers that you see on screen, up to 75 dwelling units per acre along the freeway. As the topography rises up to the freeway, additional height could be accommodated. 50 dwelling units per acre, 40 dwelling units per acre, and only the southernmost, as it is kind of abuts single family, it remains 35. So this is the plan as it currently stands. And you can see that the opportunity sites that the General Plan Advisory Committee considered were spread out throughout the downtown, even as far west as near Ocolonus Road. The site 9-1 is not going to be included, but the smaller site is a multifamily site on the northwest. The Terraces site on the northeast. And then with respect to the BART parking lots, I think clearly they are opportunity sites. They're big surface parking lots, and BART has a goal and a plan to redevelop with housing. And we're supportive of that. However, the timing is such that BART is not prepared to do that in the near term. And so given that, we did not include those sites in our 6th cycle housing element, but plan to do so for the 7th cycle. And I will take any questions you have now, or Patrick can take it away, and then happy to entertain questions at the end.
Great. Unless there's any questions, I'll just shift things to a discussion of the variety of transportation projects and programs that Lafayette has initiated and implemented over the past few years. I just wanted to mention, just to start off, that our council adopted Vision Zero in 2021. And so this led to a shift in priority towards safety, particularly for active transportation users. And so our focus has been not only on staying the course in our street maintenance program, but also in incorporating more complete streets elements into our capital projects. And you'll note this direction as we review the projects that were initiated in 2020 and 2021. This slide is a summary of the transportation projects and programs that I'll discuss tonight. First, we conducted a number of road resurfacing projects as well as surface seal projects that contributed towards our 75 PCI rating in 2021. These roadways included segments of arterials such as St. Mary's Road and Release Valley Road, to collector and local streets as well. And we used a broad mix of sources to help fund the paving rehab projects. We also use Measure J and other fund sources to improve safety and comfort for pedestrians and cyclists across Lafayette, consistent with the direction received by our council and from the La Miranda Action Plan. And I'll go over those in a bit. And finally, Lafayette initiated and completed a number of transportation policy and program efforts that I'll quickly review as well. Great. So as mentioned, we've been prioritizing improvements along our pedestrian network. In 2021, as part of the road resurfacing effort for Release Valley Road, we repaved the pathway along this street from Rossi Street to Pleasant Hill Road, and that's a distance of almost 3/4 of a mile. As part of this work, we widened the pathway and ensured ADA compliance, both along the pathway and at the curb ramps. You can see there in the photo on the left. Given that we've also been working on upgrading and expanding the pedestrian network along Pleasant Hill Road, south of Release Valley Road, and this past summer, we continued this pathway expansion and improvement project further up Release Valley Road. This project really helped to greatly expand access in the northeast section of the city for our pedestrians. Measure J funds were also used in 2021 to address safety concerns for both pedestrians and cyclists in the vicinity of the roundabout at the intersection of Pleasant Hill Road and Olympic Boulevard. Given the proximity of the roundabout to the Class 1 facilities that are present on both sides of Pleasant Hill, south of Highway 24, and that this is also proximate to the entrance to the Lafayette-Moraga Trail, this area does generate considerable pedestrian and bicycle activity. And so to address concerns about safety, we installed in 2021 the RFB, the flashing beacons at the crossing across Pleasant Hill Road. And if you've been in this area recently, you're aware that we're currently making other changes to address ped bike safety in this area. Next, I'm going to review a sample of other ped and bike projects that we worked on in 2020 and 2021. So Greg and I both mentioned as part of the housing development and engineering projects, some of the ongoing efforts to make Pleasant Hill Road safer and more comfortable. As you're aware, Pleasant Hill Road is a route of regional significance. It carries tens of thousands of vehicles per day at high speeds from Olympic Boulevard on the south into several other jurisdictions to the north and east of Lafayette. So the area immediately surrounding the interchange of Pleasant Hill Road with Highway 24 is a particular concern for us, given the uncontrolled cloverleaf ramps. And as I mentioned in the last slide, Pleasant Hill Road has Class 1 multi-use pathways along both sides of the street immediately south of Highway 24. And north of Highway 24, there are two schools, and future east-west bike ped connection to downtown Lafayette that's envisioned along Deer Hill Road. And so this is a corridor that we are continually working on to improve conditions for these modes. So this is a screenshot of 2020, the year 2020, the class 2 bicycle lanes on Pleasant Hill Road. Here really don't reflect the specific conditions and the roadway characteristics along this corridor. I think this photo was probably taken at 6 a.m. on a Sunday, given that it's rarely this empty. But anyway, I think everyone is aware with how challenging this corridor is. Next slide, please. So this is what it looks like today at about the same location. In 2020, we installed buffered green bike lanes where feasible, greenback sharrows, and additional green markings at the merge areas to increase visibility of the bike lane, the shared lanes, and to identify areas of potential conflict, and to promote a clearer understanding of the lane's purpose. These were installed between Spring Hill and Deer Hill Roads on the north, down to Mount Diablo Boulevard on the south through the interchange. Subsequently, we also installed posts in the buffers where drivers were using the green bike lane to skirt around the congestion in the afternoons. Next slide. These are just a few more conditions of existing conditions. Next slide. So while helpful, these improvements don't really represent what anyone would consider to be a low-stress facility. And so in 2021, the city received state funding to initiate work on a longer-term project that would result in a physically protected pathway for both pedestrians and cyclists through the Highway 24 interchange, where you see the pink line on the drawing. So today we're close to finalizing our 100% PS&E drawings for a center median multi-use pathway between Mount Diablo Boulevard on the south and the Stanley Boulevard Deer Hill Road intersection on the north. It would provide options for pedestrians and cyclists to use a 14-foot protected pathway that would eliminate all the conflicts with vehicles at the on and off ramps. It would result in the closure of a major gap in the region's low-stress pedestrian and bicycle networks. And importantly, because it's a route of regional significance, the project would not result in any change to the existing vehicle lane configuration. No lanes of traffic or existing sections of sidewalk would be eliminated, and no changes to the operation of the intersections would be required. So that should make Caltrans happy. And here's a typical cross-section of the roadway as it's envisioned. Next slide. So Greg touched on the East Bay Mud Aqueduct pathway. This represents really a long-term vision for Lafayette to construct a multi-use pathway along the east-west East Bay Mud right-of-way from approximately the Lafayette Reservoir on the west through downtown Lafayette, which is what is depicted on the map here. But the aqueduct right-of-way actually runs all the way to Pleasant Hill Road and beyond. So several years ago, the city completed a technical feasibility study for the downtown portion of the right-of-way that resulted in conceptual designs along each of the blocks shown here on this map. Next slide. And as Greg discussed, a portion of the pathway was completed and is continuing to be constructed east of Risa Road. And construction is nearing completion at the approach to Dolores Drive as part of the offsite requirements for those new multifamily housing developments. So these are some of the photos that I took a few months ago of the pathway. And the intent is for the city to secure grant funding to initiate detailed design and construction on the other portions of the pathway through our downtown and adjacent to the BART station. Finally, and in response to a fatality of a crossing guard in front of Stanley Middle School in 2021, Lafayette initiated school safety plans later that year for every school in the city. So this effort involved the preparation of plans that identified safety issues on the roadways surrounding our schools and recommended mitigations to address those issues in order to improve safety for students and caregivers walking, biking, and driving to and from the city's 7 schools. Council subsequently authorized about $1.3 million to design and construct a subset of prioritized safety improvements around the schools and we are nearing completion of the implementation of those projects. So my next slide lists just a few of the additional transportation programs that are aligned with the Measure J requirements. First, Measure J helps to fund 60% of the La Miranda School Bus Program, which currently serves over 1,100 students across the Lafayette, Moraga, and Orinda school districts. We're really grateful for this program. It's really popular. Currently, the Lafayette School District is working with the school bus program on a proposal to roll out staggered school start times in an effort to increase the amount of bus service that can be provided. So we're hoping that'll happen in the next school year. We'll see. Lafayette also manages a robust traffic calming program that's recently been revamped this year, but that remains a resident-driven application-based program to address speeding on local and collector streets across the city. It's entirely data-driven, so we prioritize the streets where speeding issues are the most egregious. We happily recently adopted our local road safety plan. So this will serve as our framework for addressing safety issues into the future. And finally, Clayton also mentioned this, but led by CCTA, the 3 La Miranda jurisdictions have received 2 federal grants to implement a joint smart signals project to upgrade the traffic signal and communication systems. And we are working as a single team among the 3 jurisdictions to implement this project. And our final slide demonstrates our formal efforts to collaborate with our jurisdictional partners in planning efforts with CCTA. In 2020 and 2021, our council member, Teresa Geringer, acted as the chair of the authority board. In addition, she and Lafayette staff, that's me, work collaboratively with our regional partners in SWAT in the southern portion of the county. And then we also work closely with our La Miranda partners in the La Miranda Program Management Committee, that's LPMC, and the La Miranda Fee and Financing Authority, or LFFA. LFFA was created to implement the objectives of the growth management plan to assure that new growth pays for the facilities required to meet the demand of that growth. So LFFA was established to implement a La Miranda traffic mitigation fee program. And that fee program is adjusted every year. And finally, and thanks to CCTA for helping to secure funding to expand the Street Smarts Diablo traffic safety education program to La Miranda. So this program is now being offered to the schools in our subregion, which will help to expand safety education efforts among our school-age kids as part of a Safe Routes to School initiative. And that's it. I'm looking forward to taking questions.
Wow, that was really complete. So thank you. All right, who's got some questions? We'll give everybody a minute here.
Rosa, just saying thank you for your great presentation. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thanks, Rosa. Kent?
Yeah, I had a question about the Safe Routes to Acalanes High School project, the bike path that was in the middle of the 2 lanes that goes down Pleasant Hill. Wow, that's impressive. I'm looking forward to seeing that. And it's got to be incredibly complicated dealing with the Caltrans and all that. It looked like your red line showed it kind of ended when it got to the interchange. I was wondering, does it go under the freeway? And how does it end exactly? And how does it join what? And I've seen the planning phase, but how is it going to join what's already there on the south side of the freeway?
Yeah, it does go underneath the freeway. So it would start at and end at Mount Diablo Boulevard and go up to the Stanley Deer Hill intersection on the north. And the idea is to use the existing crosswalks at those intersections, they're signalized intersections to access the pathway.
Yeah.
And yeah, the pink line should have been extended. Don't want to imply that it would run over the freeway. It does run under the freeway.
Okay. Great, thanks.
is just a clarification question on that map. Is the housing development you were talking about, was that on that diagonal right where the bike path is from the high school?
Yes, so the map is, and you can see the north arrow, right? But the housing development is right there where Greg is circling with his cursor. That's the terraces.
Okay. Great. I think Judd, you were next, and then I see lots of hands, so we'll get to everybody.
Thanks for this very interesting discussion. I was also curious how you're going to get the people in and out of that center lane and using the crosswalks. Seems like a good solution to that problem. There was one other question on the planning thing. You mentioned podium parking. I'm sorry to say I have no idea what podium parking means.
My apologies. So it's essentially at grade parking, but generally a concrete structure surrounding it, concrete walls and deck above, and then often wood structure housing built above. So it's at grade enclosed parking.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, I'm not sure who is fully next, but I'll go in order of my screen. Bill, Keith, Michael. So Bill.
Excellent, thank you. First of all, I just wanted to say it's really impressive the amount of growth that you've had in Lafayette, particularly with the multifamily housing. I thought it was very interesting the amount of increase that you've had in ADUs. And I'm just curious how much of that you feel is due to the state bills and the encouragement by the city with reducing the fees. And if you, the real question, I guess, has to do with your projections going forward, because it looks like you've had an increase, kind of at an increasing rate over the last years in the number of ADUs applied for and built. And do you project that to continue, or do you see that leveling off here in the next year or two?
So you're right. We definitely saw uptrending in ADU applications and permitting after the state passed its suite of ADU laws that I think went into effect in 2020. And so just making it easier. And so I think there was some pent up demand, and also a kind of a public awareness that is burgeoning around accessory dwelling units, both from just knowing about the laws and the ministerial nature of their application. So essentially a building permit if you're complying with the standards. So we do see a leveling off. We would not continue to project trending significantly upwards. And actually for the housing element, the state only allows us to project forward the average of the last 3 years. And so while there has been growth, we're required to go back and use the lowest, basically the last 3 years. And so we're projecting 25 to 27 conservatively for the next annually.
Still much more than what you were experiencing before 2020. Right. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, Keith.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, I'd like to recommend you on a great program. Lafayette is kind of one of the bicycling meccas for Contra Costa County. Is that program that you mentioned? Is that going to include like from Release Valley Road along Pleasant Hill Road to 24? Are you going to be looking at the bicycle lanes there? I know they're kind of a little rough in that area, not to get too specific, but I know there's actually some grates right in the bicycle lane right there.
Are you referring to Mount Diablo Boulevard?
No, on Pleasant Hill Road.
Oh, Pleasant Hill Road.
Yeah, like I know you were talking about Release Valley Road, but I know from Release Valley Road to Pleasant Hill, it's a very popular bicycle route, and the bicycle lanes are actually kind of bad shape there. And I know there's like there's a couple grates right in the bicycle lane. That's kind of treacherous. I was wondering if you guys looked into that, improvements there.
We can. We're going to be looking at the bike lanes. We got grant funding to build another segment of walkway along the west side of Pleasant Hill Road, south of Spring Hill Road. And so we're going to be kind of looking at that whole section of walkway and bike lane as well. So I think as opportunities arise, we're going to take a look at improvements along the whole corridor. Long term, we'd love to construct a Class 1 facility north of the Center Median project, so north of Deer Hill and Stanley, along the west side of Pleasant Hill Road in the long term.
Because I believe that was that Release Valley Road that you were showing the treatments that you improved?
Yep.
Yeah, so I've actually, that's nice. I don't know, is that for bicyclists? Because I know when I'm going uphill, I actually use it because it's, especially when you get near the top, it's quite dangerous to be on the road because cars go up there pretty quick.
It's not classified as a multi-use pathway, but I know anecdotally a lot of students use it. Is what I've heard, is that it's a popular route for students to get to and from school on bike.
It's because I personally I've used it too. I kind of go back and forth, but when I try to stay off it, but if there's nobody using it, you can, because I know there's parts depending on the cross streets you can kind of get off and get on, but I could see it, for the kids, anybody, bicyclists and kids. So have you ever thought about maybe expanding that for bicyclists could use it?
Well, according to our municipal code, kids can use it. So they're not riding illegally.
Okay.
I don't think we have the right of way to expand it to like 10 feet or anything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Michael?
Yeah, I tend to gravitate towards the more pure transportation questions, but a couple of questions that were more on the housing side just compelled me to inquire. A lot of projects that are 4 stories, is that a Lafayette limit? Is that something bigger than Lafayette? What was kind of driving all of the projects being 4 stories in height? And I'll stop there, and then I'll get another question for you, Greg, after that.
Surely. So Lafayette, since incorporation, so 55 years, has had a density of 35 dwelling units per acre and a height limit of 35 feet. And so the 4-story projects are a function of that height limit, but waiving the height and number of stories through state density bonus law. So the developer asserting that additional height was necessary to make the project feasible. So essentially, you saw multiple examples of 4-story projects, and one, that we would actually classify as 5 with the 4 stories over the podium parking. It's a little complicated because it daylights on the south side, but then goes into grade at the north side. But it's a function of the historic height limits and density bonus law. But our height limits will go up once the density goes up.
Gotcha. And kind of channeling my inner Jared, the playing nice with each other question that he always asks, the one that intrigues me when I look at Lafayette, I see a town, a city that mirrors Danville, whom I represent. In fact, I think the number of housing units required is almost dead on the same number in kind of that low 2000s. The dimension Lafayette has that Danville does not is a BART station. And I know there's a tremendous interest in high density housing around BART stations. How well is BART and the city playing together? And if BART chooses not to play well? Can they sort of just tell you to pound sand and put whatever they want in the city of Lafayette up, whether it's 5 stories or 15 stories, if they conclude that's a better answer? How does all that work?
So you're asking how we're coordinating with BART?
Yes, in as much as I think BART has some special capabilities to build dense housing around its stations, as I understand it.
Michael, you're talking about the development of like the BART parking lots in Lafayette, right?
Or, yeah, I mean, it's my general understanding is the state desires dense housing around, transit centers, and they've done everything they can to facilitate making that easy, even if, Lafayette would otherwise prefer to keep the current character of Lafayette. And just how does that, is there tension, and how does that play out? And, and if it comes to loggerheads, how does it get resolved?
Thank you for that. So the state did pass AB 2923 approximately 5 years ago, which applies only to Alameda and Contra Costa counties, and only to land within a half mile of BART that BART currently owned at the time of the bill. So Lafayette is subject to it. Other communities are not. Not every other BART station in the system is. So at the time, the community was not supportive of upzoning. I think I, as a planner, have always seen the BART parking lots as kind of land banking. It's the current land use, but at some point in time, seeing Fruitvale and other BART stations get higher density housing and redevelopment around them, it was inevitable, I think, for Lafayette as well. And that time with 2923, which essentially required jurisdictions to comply with BART's internal TOD plan, which BART developed for internal purposes, now made it effective for local jurisdictions. And so Lafayette's subject to AB 2923, which requires a minimum of 5 stories, 75 dwelling units per acre, no parking. And so our future work on the project will comply with those standards, and it'll probably go above that, but it'll be in conjunction and working in partnership with BART. We recently applied for, and I think have received tentative approval for one of the earlier steps, which is addressing station parking and station access. So as the site is redeveloped, that parking goes away. BART has said that they will no longer replace existing parking one-to-one when they build a new project. It's not feasible. And so how the community and the riders of the system will access the station, that last mile, is kind of critical to the puzzle. And so that's one of the earlier pre-development tasks that needs to be undertaken. And so we're planning to work on a parking management. We updated our parking standards, essentially reducing the requirements. A separate bill, AB 2097, precludes the city from requiring any parking or imposing any parking standards or requirements for projects within half a mile of BART. And so all of the council members are new since 2923 was passed, and the housing crisis has deepened. It is more present, and the green allocation and all indications are that more needs to be done. And I think our current council recognizes that and is supportive of doing significantly more.
Thanks. That's a comprehensive answer. And I will pick on Patrick just a bit. One specific and then one broader question. So the specific question, when I look at the agenda package, I see a lot of interesting sort of markers, ball fields in the capital improvement, community center roofs, And I'm trying to understand because they're footnoted as PTR projects are considered placeholders and staff recommendations based on maintenance needs will require. Help me get the context of that placeholder. They don't seem to relate to transportation, and I'm not. I'm just a little confused and want to understand that feature in your information package.
Yeah, I think you're talking about our 5-year CIP from 2022. That was probably the attachment.
Yeah, I
to
think
the-
every
yeah.
year there's some interesting footnoted, cover this roof, pave a ball.
Yeah.
Do a ball field, and I'm just how does that relate to transportation projects? And so I just wanted.
Well, this is the capital improvement program for engineering and public works, and so we are now helping our Parks, Trails, and Recreation Department as well. I mean, it's not Measure J funds that are going to those projects. They're just kind of additional projects that Engineering and Public Works is helping our partners in our Parks Department with those projects.
So so is it information? Is it TMI for what we're supposed to be looking after? It's still somewhat confusing me. Matt, I don't know, you might be wanting to jump in here and offer an explanation.
Yeah, thanks, Member Carr. Yeah, so the city is required to submit their current CIP, and we ask for the transportation component, but sometimes that's buried in the overall CIP, which includes everything the city does. So yeah, it is TMI, I guess you'd say. It's hard to get just a list of the transportation projects in a CIP because they're usually in a PDF document. So we just ask for the whole thing.
Okay, got it. So I'm not interested in creating more work. So thanks for that. And then Patrick, you heard me ask the question of Clayton. So maybe if you have any thoughts on that, you can answer it. And then otherwise, I'd say as someone who's new, what are a couple of things you've learned having to do this checklist coming in new to the role that you said, well, I really hated having to do this checklist, but it allowed me to learn a couple of things that have actually been helpful. There are a couple of those you could illuminate in the course of having to go through this process and bring it to this group and others.
Yeah, I mean, it was a challenge going into it and not having been here in 2020 or 2021. So there was a lot of homework on my part. I'm thankful to Greg's team that helped provide all the housing and land use information. So that was really, really helpful. But this has given me a much, much better understanding of what the engineering and public works departments work on, the funding sources. Was actually really, really helpful for me. I think when I started this checklist, I was only here maybe 6 months, right? So it was more time consuming than it will be in 2 years when I have to redo this. But it was a really useful exercise for me to get up to speed with what my department does. And I mean, I'm a transportation planner, so I'm not overseeing the road resurfacing projects. It's just given me a better bird's eye view of everything that happens. So
thank you. Appreciate that answer. I lowered my hand, so over to Chris, perhaps.
Yep, Chris.
Okay, thank you. So I just have a couple comments and then a question at the end. So I represent Moraga on this group, but I thought your presentation was, of all the ones I've seen, it was by far the best. A lot of very good material in there. Very interested to see how much bike stuff you're doing. I had no idea that it was extensive as it is. I definitely ride my bike from Moraga to Lafayette sometimes and to Walnut Creek. So how those sections are all getting connected, I think is a big safety improvement and appreciated. And kind of the only comment maybe related to Moraga is just the whole Moraga Road thing. I'm really looking forward to the traffic light program. And I hope that Moraga is really working with you guys to do that. The city council might disagree with me, but if we even threw money into it that maybe was going to go somewhere else, I think it would improve the corridor. I'd say there's probably more Moraga residents using Moraga Road than Lafayette people. So that's just an aside. The question I have is really about the ADUs, and I'm a big supporter of ADUs. I'm wondering if you guys really know how they're being used. I see it as a great way for a single person or maybe a couple to live there, be able to afford to, like teachers, maybe even to live in the community that they're working in. So are they being used for that? Are they being used as Airbnbs? Are they being used for families? Do you guys ever have any feedback on how they're being used as they're built?
I think it's truthful that they're being used for everything and other things that you've suggested. One of our challenges, and we did do a survey of applicants and those who built ADUs to glean some insights that you're wondering about, and the response rate was extraordinarily low. And so we don't have great data on it. However, kind of anecdotally, many of the units are being built for extended family, be they boomerang kids coming back and just launching into their careers, elder parents downsizing and needing to be closer to family to be cared for, and the like, others being rented out. Short-term rentals are still not regulated in Lafayette, and we had that discussion with the council recently about whether to regulate them, as they might be taking units away from longer-term housing. And the research we didn't find an extensive problem. I mean, certainly some are being rented out Airbnb, there's no question, but it's not significant numbers that are being pulled out of the longer term housing market. So it runs the gamut, but it is an ongoing struggle to get data around that. So a lot of it comes just by knowing and talking with the people who are doing it, and they're reluctant to fill out a survey.
I get that. Thank you. Great presentation again. Thank you.
Keith, did you have a question, or was your hand up from earlier? I think he's shaking. He's good. Okay. So I'll also compliment the Pleasant Hill bike lanes. You clearly hear a theme. I live in Walnut Creek, and I will come up from the trail into Pleasant Hill and take that for hill sprints, because some of your nice residential neighborhoods off of Pleasant Hill Road are almost nearly straight up. And actually, like a 20-mile ride can give you more altitude and more hill sprint training than Mount Diablo will, where I live on that road. So my one tip as you continue to do that, well, my two suggestions, one is get Pleasant Hill to also, do the same work you guys are doing, because you guys are far ahead of them. The other one is there's a lot of debris and trees. Some of the tree branches sprout out on the road, and there's an occasional debris in there. And actually, the biggest way, in my opinion, clearly you could tell I'm a big biker, is if you get hit by a tree branch, or you hit something of a debris in road and you're coming down that hill into Deer Hill and under the highway there, you are very much in danger, right? Because you might be going 30, 40 miles an hour on a bike at that point, and you just clip a side tree branch or a piece of debris, and that road is very hazardous that way compared to some other roads. So maybe add into your maintenance schedules a look at it. And if you guys just take a look at it, you'll be like, oh yeah, there is three little tree branches, but that's enough that one high schooler racing to school in the morning down that road can end up into oncoming traffic, and then we don't want to hear that story. So thanks for coordinating with your other cities. I like that you guys talk about that. Clearly you heard that's a question that I ask of everybody. The one other thing that I will school you guys on is I don't think we've had a Lafayette member on this committee for 3 to 6 months at least, maybe even longer now. And I notice you guys do have a transportation and circulation commission as well as some others. So maybe you could pull a member, like I serve on the Walnut Creek Transportation Commission. Maybe there's a member there that could join us. It's once a month on Zoom. It's very easy to join, but if you can work with your city clerk and in the next month, maybe get somebody here to do that. If not, you're going to have to rely on the guy from Moraga not being upset that he got stuck at the traffic light today to make a motion for you. But Bill, did you have something before I take a
It
motion?
wasn't a question. I was just ready to make a motion.
Okay, well, Bill will make it. There you go.
I'd like to move that we approve Lafayette's presentation as it relates to Measure J.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Keith. Emily, can you take the roll?
Member Baker,
Yes.
Member Esquivel,
Aye.
Member Hammond,
Aye.
Member Moriarty,
Approved.
Member Saunders,
Yes.
Member Wayne,
Yes.
Vice Chair Carr,
Well done. Sorry, well done, gentlemen. Approved.
Chair Ash.
Aye.
The motion passes unanimously with members Bristow, Chahal, and Miller absent.
Great, thank you
Thank
for
you.
that. I'm skipping everything on public comments because I don't see anything on that. It is now time for comments from the committee or questions or announcements from the committee members. So thank you guys from Lafayette and Clayton here so far. Comments,
Thanks.
questions?
Have a good night.
Bye, Dana. Anybody? Okay, I have a couple. Emily, you noticed I was following up with you about this group and touring Gomentum Station. So since the other one is not relevant to this committee, I figured I would announce that there is really some great work that you guys are doing out there. And I heard Tim talking a lot about it at the Economic Development Working Group in Walnut Creek today. And I think that this group would really appreciate to learn more about what's happening out there. Something else that I wanted to bring up is I've heard we've grown an awesome reputation of giving some of the staff a hard time if they are not fully compliant and everything. And I didn't know, Matt, do you send just like a thank you note to the speakers? Should I be sending a thank you note on behalf of the group, just for coming, just for presenting, for putting up with us? We, as Michael pointed out, there's a lot of work that goes into this, and I just want to make sure, like, I'm happy to send thank you notes if you give me people's email address and just show them a little bit of extra respect or something.
We can certainly provide you with contact information. If I don't, yeah, I'm sure they'd love to get that sort of response.
Yeah, so maybe we'll go back 3 months. I don't want to go back any longer than that. I mean, I'm just going to send like a 2-sentence email that said thank you, and I'll CC you and Emily on that. But I think it would just be nice. These people are spending a lot of time doing this, and maybe that's a new tradition we'll start. And then I wanted to ask where the CCTA.
I'd like to thank them as well. If, I mean, but maybe remember some of the speakers.
Yeah, if I don't know if others want to do that, or if I could do it on behalf of the committee, or whatever is appropriate. Matt, we'll let you sort of stool on that and do that. I just want to be respectful for them. And then I know the CCTA had put out the applications for the membership. I was curious of the status of that.
So the plan right now is to take those to our, what's next month? November Administration and Projects Committee. They're the ones who interview new committee members, and they're the ones that actually these 3 spots on this committee are chosen by our board. So they'll be interviewing in front of APC on the first Thursday in November, which I think is the it's
November or October?
November. We missed the October meeting is next month, so we're gonna give them some time to prepare because they have to get interviewed and we have to set up a special meeting time. But it will be happening. So we have more applications than spots available, so we should be able to fill all 3 spots.
Awesome. That's a good sign. And when was the last time we reached out to some of these cities, other than me giving them a hard time, when they don't have a member here to fill? We've got what? Let's see here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 out of 19. So when we have 9 cities that are missing, I certainly don't want bodies for more people talking in these meetings to take longer, but I don't know, maybe when is it time to follow back up with the other cities on filling those spots?
Yeah, I don't know if Emily wants to comment, but I know she's been getting in contact with all the cities, certainly as their members resign or leave for whatever reason. It's probably the cities that have been vacant for a while that have probably slipped off of our radar. So those might be the ones we can talk to, and we can talk internally to see if maybe some of our board members who represent those cities can get involved as well.
Yeah, right. Just Lafayette, I know Hercules, like Clayton's very small. And so I know we've talked to a couple of people out there and they just don't have the bodies. But Lafayette, right? I feel like if you ask your board member who's a council person in Lafayette, clearly we asked today, they have a transportation commission. There are some places where if we could fill some good bodies, that would be great. So those were the things on my mind today for us to talk about. Anybody have any comments, questions on that? Feedback?
I guess my only question, Jared, I'm trying to understand what constitutes a forum. Is it a majority of potential membership or a majority of active members? And if it's the latter, then our ability to have a quorum isn't harmed per se, particularly if those of us who are around are more reliably attending. So maybe Emily, Matt, maybe you know the answer to that.
Emily, do you want to?
Yes. So the quorum is based off of the members on the committee. So it's majority plus 1. So if we do have more members, then that number would go up, and it fluctuates as members, leave as well.
Right. So our quorum's a little smaller now because we have a lot of positions not filled.
It is. There's 11 members right now. So it's at 6.
Gotcha. Okay,
right. And to Michael, to your point, I get that, right? Most of this group here shows up pretty reliably. And so there's a benefit to that. And so I'm not actively looking for every seat to be filled, just to have bodies or something. But I think we could just fill out some things. And I'm excited about the 3 at-large seats from CCTA. People who probably responded to that, or hopefully, I think 2 or 3 of them, myself, who put in applications, and I know those are pretty good people that will add value to this. But yeah, I certainly don't want to jeopardize quorum because we've had those months. Okay, anybody else?
We are actively working on the Gomentum Station tour. Just so you guys know, the issue for taking those tours is because you guys are, operate under Brown Act rules. We either have to notice the meeting at the Gomentum Station if we take you all out at once, or we have to just split you up into smaller groups, so we aren't violating any meeting issues, Brown Act issues. So we are working on that, and we will give you some options going forward.
Awesome. Okay, any other staff updates?
Not for me.
I
Emily?
did just want to clarify on communications. I don't know if there's a board, not familiar with all the rules and procedures, but I was just thinking maybe documenting if we thank any member, like any communications. Like maybe put an attachment of the presentation from the city and then keeping it on the record so that just, follow procedure. But yeah, I'd like to thank all the presenters and everyone, even 511 Contra Costa for their presentation.
Yeah, we will send those out we'll send those out tomorrow, right, Emily? And do we post them online as well?
Yeah, the presentations will be posted and then I'll send out the link.
Great. And the other favor I had there, Emily, is when you send out the Zoom, can you make it a calendar invite? I don't know if that helps everybody, but I would think that's awesome.
That would help me with the correct meeting link. I have the wrong link all the time.
Thank you, Rosa.
Okay.
I'm not the only one then. All right, any other staff updates or member updates? All right, I'd like to close this meeting at 8:11. Thank you, everybody, for your time tonight. Great job. Great questions.